welcome back to the Real Positive Girl podcast. Thank you so much for joining me for a new week of podcast episodes and just coming back and wanting to listen to me talk about different mental wellness topics. I hope that you had a great weekend. For those of you that decided who decided to celebrate Mother's Day, I hope that it was a great day, and I had a good day. We actually went on a hike, which was hilarious because, I would say a third of our family doesn't like to hike, and the rest are fine with it, and it was lots of fun. It was really good weather here in Washington State, so I had a good weekend. So I hope that you had a good weekend, and even if you weren't celebrating Mother's Day, I hope that whatever you were doing, that you did have good weather, you were able to have some relaxation and also feel productive in whatever you're doing. I hope that overall, in general, it was just absolutely awesome and amazing. But again, welcome into the podcast. My name is Sabrina, and this week we are going to be talking about codependency. And I just thought it was a great transition from talking about boundaries last week. And if you missed any of those episodes, I highly encourage you to go back and listen to those and any other topics that I've talked about in the past, because every week is a new topic, and it's really fun to break these down and really talk about it. And especially, I know you guys can tell which ones I am passionate about, and codependency is definitely one that I am super passionate about because probably just as much, if not more, than boundaries, because number one, I struggle with it so much, and I have been working on it for years to pull myself away from those tendencies and that struggle. But also, it is something that so many people struggle with, and a lot of people may not even realize that that is what they're struggling with. So I thought it would be very important to shed some light on that and really break it down so that people can have a better understanding of it, and maybe give some tips on how to lessen that struggle, slowly be able to pull yourself back and realize that you don't have to live within that lifestyle forever. And I call it a lifestyle, even though that's probably not the most appropriate word, but it kind of feels like that. Those things that you are stuck in can really feel like a lifestyle. That is your life, that is what it is, and it feels like that's just the way that you have to live it, when really you have the power and ability to break free from anything that is kind of just drowning you, suffocating you, making you feel like that is the only thing, but it's not giving you any joy or peace or comfort in your life. Hopefully that makes sense, but we all have the power to do that, to break free from those struggles, if we just, really put our mind to it and focus in and get the help that we need and get the knowledge that we need to help ourselves break free. So again, that is another reason why we're talking about codependency this week, and I just think it'll be so helpful to shed some light on that. I hope that today, if your day is just starting here, Monday, I forgot to mention the name of the day. I'm a little all over the place today, but I hope that you will indulge me. So Monday, today, I hope that you're having a good start to your day, if your day has just begun, and I hope that it's a great day. If your day has already begun, then I hope it's been awesome, amazing, so productive, and very helpful. You're able to reflect positive things from it. But as I always say, if you're having a bad day and things are just not going your way or the way that they need to go, then I hope that you will take at least 5 minutes by yourself to find some time to feel more peace, to recover, to just come back to baseline and figure out what needs to be done going forward to make the rest of the day better. And I'm not saying it has to be the best day ever after that. Even if it's just neutral feelings of feeling like, okay, I can get through the rest of the day, not hating anything, not wanting to throw the whole thing in the ocean, just being able to get through, still be positive as much as you can, still feel grateful and humble and just happy that you're alive. That's what you need to do. Also take some time to problem solve whatever problems are getting in your way so that you can fix those today or tomorrow or whenever the next opportunity you have is. So just the main point of that is, don't just throw away the whole day. Don't throw away the rest of the day just because a couple bad things happen, because if you really reflect on it, you will see some positives and some things you can be grateful for, and the fact that you're able to get through it as a lot of people might not be able to. It might just totally break them, and that's not what you want. So again, happy Monday. Let's go ahead and jump in to today's episode. So today we're going to talk about what is codependency. So codependency is an unhealthy focus on other people's problems, feelings, and needs. It's also the extreme need to be dependent on others and feel wholly responsible for their actions and feelings. And this can sound very reminiscent of lack of boundaries, which is what we talked about last week in developing those boundaries. And so when you feel the responsibility for someone else outside of that relationship that a parent and a child has, where you actually are responsible for them, I just feel like it should throw off a red flag in your head, where you realize, wow, this is not healthy. This is not the way it should be. You should not feel responsible for other people's actions, and more importantly, feelings, because everyone is responsible for their own feelings no matter what. A hallmark of those struggling with this is that approval from others is more important than respecting themselves. Doing whatever they can for that person while completely ignoring yourself. Like, why you're just putting everything of yourself into someone else. You're just wholly investing it into them, and struggling to fulfill someone else's approval, especially when they know that you are hanging on that, can be one of the hardest ways to live your life. So that just doing whatever you can for someone else and just totally throwing yourself out the window is one of the most unhealthy ways to live. And I hope that you realize that. And even just like hanging everything in your life on other people's approval and not respecting yourself in any sort of way, that's definitely you definitely are lacking boundaries there as well. So it's something to think about. One of the reasons specifically it is unhealthy is because this focus will still be present despite how negatively it impacts their mental and physical health and general personal well-being. And it's amazing because I never really realized when I was doing this, and I still, don't get me wrong, I still kind of do this. I'm definitely a work in progress. I know many of us are, but when I was full on codependent, I don't think I realized that that I would just throw myself away, kind of. And that's how I think of it. You're wholly invested in those other people, that other person, that other relationship in your life, and you don't care what's going on with yourself. And it's amazing how you might not even realize that those things are negatively impacting you physically or mentally or just your general well-being. You might just think that as long as you have your full focus on that other person and that they are doing well, that you think that also you are doing well. It's, it's kind of like projection, but the other way around. It's whatever their feelings that they're projecting out, you are accepting those as your own, which is absolutely terrible. And I mean that wholeheartedly, terrible, unhealthy, and not the way that live your life. This will also result in the interference of identity development. It's like letting yourself become consumed in someone else's life and not even knowing who you are after taking a step back. If you're lucky enough to realize that you do need to take a step back, you're basically a shell of a person. And this is one of the biggest things that I have been working on this in the last 365 days, is realizing that the codependency that I've had most of my entire life, which they say that codependency is very common of those that were raised by people that are narcissists and all about themselves, which I was raised by one, so I feel like that theory can be true. But my whole life, I in the last year, I've been working on realizing that I never knew exactly who I was. I had a faint idea of who I wanted to be growing up, and I went to school for that, and I had this very narrow focus of okay, this is what I want to do. But honestly, it's just all along the way, though, it was still codependent relationship after relationship after relationship, whether it's friends or, intimate partner, or other friends at school, or some of the people that I looked up to in my life, or even my husband. And we've actually been working through this, because this is definitely not the kind of relationship, not the way that I want to be involved in our relationship, as and it's become really bad. And I know some of you might be able to agree with this in your own relationships, where you just give everything to them, and it's not as though that they're selfish and they're not giving back. It's just that you are doing so much more unnecessarily, and even my husband would point it out and be like, that's just not the way it should be. It needs to be more balanced and healthy than that. But anyway, back to identity development. When you don't even realize who you are or what you're all about, outside of those relationships, I like to think of it as if those relationships were gone from your life for whatever reason, negative or positive, and then you're like, who am I? What am I doing now? What do I even like to do? What am I even interested in? What should I do with my free time? What am I working towards? What are my goals? And it can be really tough to actually answer those questions for yourself when those relationships are removed, because you didn't know anything outside of just pleasing and working for that person and doing nothing for yourself. So you're basically a shell of a person if you're fully invested in all these other relationships and not taking the time for you. People pleasers and perfectionists, I'm both, suffer greatly from being codependent, because they are all about what others think about them and basing their worth off of those opinions. So terrible. I mean, just in general, outside of talking specifically about codependency, none of us should be basing our worth off of other people's opinions and what other people think of us, because everyone has a different opinion, and it's all based on everyone's different thoughts, feelings, values, upbringings, experiences. So right there are so many free radicals in there that you're like if you thought about it in that way, I feel like it would cause you to take a step back and realize, wow, how can I actually base all of that off of other people's feelings and opinions when they're all different? No one is coming together to have the same one. And you might think that some groups are coming together to have the same one, but that's just because those people are in the same group. They're in the same area. But if you were to say, no, I have to base my life off of other people's opinions and what they think about me, because they will see what they think is best in me, and that's what I should present to the world. But honestly, if you were to expand your sample size of those people, you would see that there are so many different outlooks and opinions that it doesn't matter. Everyone just needs to be who they were meant to be and figure out. And if you don't know who that is, which believe me, I've been there and I'm still kind of there, then you need to take some time to work on yourself and have more self-awareness and emotional intelligence to understand who you are and what you're all about, and realize that by basing everything you are off of other people, you are wasting the opportunity you have to shine the incredible specialness, and I know that sounds cheesy, but the specialness and the gifts that you are here to give to the world and impart with the people in the world, so we can all come together and just live in this harmonious ideal that a lot of us are waiting on. I know that sounded really cheesy, but I totally mean it. We all are meant to play a part in this world together, to work together, and we're all good at different things, and so that's what makes us all be able to be this fabulous team that I feel like a lot of us aren't, where we need to work on that. But anyway, yeah, they will suffer people pleasers and perfectionists, and if you are one of those groups, you might start thinking wow, I do have a lot of codependent tendencies, and that's okay. It's good. The first thing you should do is start to realize that you are having those tendencies and struggles, so that you can work on them. There is also an outlook of them trying to save others from themselves, which also brings in the element of control over something and making themselves feel important to others. And so I know one of the biggest issues for me was I did not feel important enough to people, and so me being able to have some sort of control over others, even if it's just subconsciously, and that sounds bad, but it's the truth, and then I feel more important to them, and I'm more in their front mindset, they're thinking about me more, and when people think about you and talk about you and rave to people about you, and you're like, oh yeah, Sabrina helped me with this, that, and the other, like, it just makes you feel more important when you know that they're just talking about you and they're raving about you, and that you are constantly they are constantly thinking about you, and so it puffs you up a little bit, makes you feel important. And if you have control issues, it gives you that sense of control when you're really not controlling anything, but you feel like you are, because you're trying to save other people from making mistakes that maybe you have the knowledge to do, but maybe not. And regardless, that's not the point. The point is for you to just feel like you can put your hand in it and be fully absorbed in that. Also, something that I'll probably talk about later in the week is spending all of this time wholly seriously focused on other people's feelings and thoughts and concerns and needs. It's just another way for you to ignore what is happening in your own life. So like I said, you'll just ignore how this whole relationship is negatively, in fact, impacting your mental and physical and your general well-being, especially if bad things are going to you, like if you're going through abuse, or like whether that's physically or mentally, or financial troubles, or just like sadness, depression, anxiety. And so being able to push those things back in your mind and focus more on other people, it just helps you to completely block out those things. And that is not a coping mechanism that anyone should ever do, because it just makes everything worse, right? It just makes everything worse. So here are some traits of someone, other than what I've already mentioned, that struggles with codependency. So obsessive worry over others, letting yourself become too involved in others' drama, fear of making waves or rocking the boat. So like you wouldn't actually give your real opinion if you did have one. You don't want to you don't want to be involved in confrontation. You don't want to be involved in any sort of arguments. It's easier for you to take care of others rather than yourself, which we've already spoken on a little bit. And you probably struggle with guilt and shame. So there are many more signs that can determine someone struggling with codependency, which we will get into later in the week, but today this is just a general overview. And so I think I am going to cap today's episode right here, because the first episode of every week is supposed to be just like a general overview, and we will definitely dive more into it as we go through the topics, dive deeper into the topic through the week as we break it down more. So if you're not new here, then you understand the format. If you are new here, then that's just how we do it. Just general overview today, wrap it all up on Friday, and in between we'll break it down even more into deeper parts of the topic that are most important for you to understand, to be able to break free from those struggles and understand exactly what's going on. So thank you again for joining me for the podcast. Again, happy Monday. Thanks again for joining me for the Real Positive Girl podcast. My name is Sabrina, and I cannot speak clearly today. But I hope that you have a fantastic day. Again, thanks so much for joining me. I hope that you come back tomorrow and the next following days for some more information on the struggle of codependency. I find it really interesting. I hope that you are finding it very interesting. Also, if you know someone that would benefit from listening to this episode, or any ones in the past, I encourage you to share it with them so that everyone gets to hear it and understand it and be a part of this club of, working on our mental wellness. But until then, have a good one. Happy Monday, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.